This video is sponsored by Crypto.com. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. It is MotoTech. Previously, we've talked about Flux, a decentralized Web3 infrastructure project. If you don't know what Flux is, I encourage you to check out my previous videos. We've also talked about the GPU mining side of Flux project. Today, we're not here to talk about GPU mining. We are going to talk about node running, the rewards, and some node running strategies to help you maximize your rewards. Quick pause here. If you're new to the channel, we're here to talk about popular tech products, services, and projects. For every like we receive, $1 will be donated to one of the charities of our choice each month. You can check out our previous donations under our community tab. You can also help me out by signing up for Crypto.com, where both you and I will receive $25 after you sign up. Crypto.com is my favorite mobile crypto trading app, and their crypto Visa card is definitely the best crypto cards you can get in the market right now. Not only you will get high APY return while staking stablecoins on their platform, you can also enjoy up to 8% cashback on your purchase. They will even pay for your Spotify, Netflix, Amazon Prime subscriptions. You also get to enjoy airport lounges and other travel benefits. If you're interested, sign up at crypto.com/app/mototech with the referral code MotoTech. Without further ado, let's get into it. So why do I choose to talk about node running strategies now? That's because there is a big event happening on March 1st for Flux, and that's the halving or halvening, whatever people call it these days. Let's take a look at the reward distribution. 50% of the rewards will go to GPU miners, and then all these node runners will share the rest of the 50%. One thing to clarify is that look at the 30%. So let's say if there are only 3 nodes in this tier, that means each node will be getting 10% of the total rewards. And if there are 10 nodes, each node will be getting 3%. And if there are 30 nodes, each node will be getting 1%. The more nodes in this tier, the less rewards for each one. Currently, Cumulus requires 10,000, Flux, Nimbus 25,000, and Stratus costs 100,000. That is why having a strategy is really important. For example, if you have 200,000 Flux, is it better to have 2 Stratus node or a few Nimbus node or all of them in Cumulus node? And this is where the rewards dashboard in Flux OS becomes really handy. Right now, the rewards are kind of balanced out. As you can see here, Nimbus collateral is 2.5 times the Cumulus collateral. With KDA, Nimbus is getting roughly 2 to 2.5 times rewards. Same with Stratus. You can multiply this number by 4 and you will get roughly the Stratus rewards. So the node runners kind of just balance out these numbers themselves. For example, if Nimbus all in a sudden is getting out of balance, is making so much more, people will just pull their funds, or people from Stratus will just divide their funds and put it into Nimbus node. Down here, the KDA rewards, I see a lot of people asking for how much KDA I'm actually making. So in the past, you will actually make a good amount. However, right now, you can pretty much just ignore this number. Something else to factor in is that they talk about the VPS cost, and that is the VM people are running using these cloud services. And I know some people are running using their existing hardware, so they don't have this cost here. So now let's talk about the change and the timeline. Timeline is key, and this is where the transition strategy comes in. Collateral for Cumulus will be reduced from 10,000 Flux to 1,000 Flux, and Nimbus is cutting in half from 25,000 to 12,500. And Stratus is getting about 40% of the original collateral. And the change is not happening all at once. It's by phases. So the first phase is Cumulus from March 1st to March 22nd. So between March 1st and March 22nd, both the old Cumulus node and the new Cumulus node will work. The Nimbus new requirement will not happen until March 15th. And then there's a buffer area where from March 15th to April 5th, both the new Nimbus and the old Nimbus node will be able to earn rewards. The Stratus node change will not happen until April 1st. A lot of people have misconception here. They think that, all right, originally 10,000 Flux will get us about $231 per month. So when March 1st comes, 1,000 Flux will be able to get you $231. That's not true. Of course, there will be a lot of moving factors, but let's just say the total number of nodes don't change and there's no new players entering the arena. When you reduce the 10,000 Flux collateral to 1,000 collateral, means originally someone had 1 Cumulus node, now they will have 10 Cumulus node with the new collateral requirements. And 10 of those nodes altogether will be earning 231.93 USD. And of course, we will have a lot more people coming in with 1,000 Flux. So that means for each node that requires 1,000 Flux collateral, which was supposed to earn only $23 per month, well, now getting lower as more Cumulus nodes are being created. And of course, at the same time, some players over here with Cumulus nodes, maybe like 2 of them, which is 20,000 Flux collateral based on the current requirements, they will think, well, there are more people entering and my rewards are dropping, so they may just buy some more Flux and decide to stake into Nimbus. So of course, again, the current requirement is 25,000. And when this number reduced to half, if there's no new players entering, that means each new node will only earn about 200 and some extra USDs per month. However, when some of these guys over here, they now have enough to stake a Nimbus node, they were jumping with 12,500, will also reduce the rewards in this pool. Now you see the pattern. Okay, with that out of the way, there's something else that's very important to consider. That's the hardware requirements. Originally, you only need 2 core for Cumulus, and now you need 2 core, 4 threads, and 8 gigabytes of RAM. And previously is 4 gigabytes of RAM and only 50 gigabytes of SSD or HSD. Now is 220 gigabytes of SSD or NVMe. And here is another requirement, EPS, and that is for each core. EPS stands for events per second. Here you see a bunch of benchmark scores. Event per second is basically saying, hey, how many numbers, prime numbers, these CPU can find in a short amount of time. I want to bring you down all the way here to ARM V8. The CPU right here, and that's Raspberry Pi, the Raspberry Pi 4 CPU, okay? So 4 core together, we're getting over 6,000 events per second. So each core will get you about 1,500. So obviously that will be enough for Cumulus nodes, and it will be enough for Nimbus. However, the Stratus node, it will require 8 core and 1520 EPS per core. So Raspberry Pi is not going to cut it. Another reason I say most of the Cumulus nodes, instead of making 10 of these Cumulus nodes, they will probably just jump over to the new Nimbus node and maybe make 1. Because previously the RAM requirement was 4 gigabytes. And now with 1,000 Flux, each node will require 8 gigabytes of RAM. And that means if you had 10,000 Flux and now you're running 10 nodes, you'll need 80 gigabytes of RAM. That is a tons of RAM. Think about how many VPS you will be running. Oh yeah, but I have to remind you that if you have a Jetson device, for example, a Jetson Nano 4 gigabytes, you can still run the Cumulus node at 4 gigabytes. So I want to bring you to the DigitalOcean, which is one of the most popular cheap cloud service providers. A very simple calculator, not very flexible. You can't really do all the specific options you want to choose, but it will give you an overall good idea and a rough estimate. 160 gigabytes of storage, 8 gigabytes of RAM, but CPU, we're going to double off the requirement, which is 4. You're running $40 a month. This number right here is already more than what you're going to be making with one of these Cumulus nodes, so I don't think that's worth it. Maybe you'll be able to find a cloud provider that can cut that price in half, which is probably one of those cheap providers people are using currently from Germany. I would think maybe with $15 to $20, you would be able to make one of those nodes. But remember this number right here. Right now, the cost each month is $7, but when the requirement increases, it's probably going to bump up to $15 or even $20 because the tier 1, which is Cumulus requirement, is going to be actually out matching the current Nimbus requirement in some aspects. So you probably end up breaking even or even not worth it if you're running one of these VPS nodes. And let's look at the new requirement for Nimbus. 4 core, 32 gigabytes. And remember, we're going to need 4 TB of bandwidth. So here we have 4 core and 32 gigabytes of memory, and storage, we'll just keep it at 100 gigabytes because there's no way for me to change. and then 6 TB of data bandwidth. You're looking at, for DigitalOcean, $180 a month, and that is absolutely absurd. So for Nimbus node, that's currently making 500 and almost 50. As we did earlier, you cut that collateral in half. You also cut this rewards in half. You'll be making about 250. You have a $180 monthly maintenance fee on these nodes. You're really not making a lot of Flux. And just out of curiosity, I want to see, let's see how much it's going to cost. So 8 cores, 62 gigabytes of RAM, and almost 1 TB of SSD. We're going to adjust the storage to 1 TB just to match that 800 gigabytes requirement. You're going to need to pay $440 on a DigitalOcean node, and you will be making roughly $1,000 for rewards each month. And then after you paid that $440, you'll be making about $600 a month Flux. So that will give you an idea of what happens when you use the VPS to run these nodes after happening. And this is why I think it is extremely important for people to start running these nodes from home using your bare metal hardware. And I think it overall is a good idea because this will help the decentralization of this project. Take a look at this. When you look at the map, all right, right now most of the nodes are actually consolidated in Germany, 55.6%, and almost all of these are by cloud providers, okay? And basically the cheap VPS people can get. After the halving, I can imagine this number will drop a lot and you will start seeing more people start hosting nodes from home. And this will definitely help out with the decentralization. Instead of running multiple Cumulus nodes, I actually only run Nimbus nodes because I want to last all the way to April 5th. And that will give me about 2 months with the old requirements right here. So I will be able to run Nimbus nodes with the low cost, and I'm just going to milk it all the way to April 5th, the day I really have to upgrade my hardware requirements here. And when this day comes, I'm probably going to think about either running I'll have to do some test on it, either a Raspberry Pi cluster or maybe a Jetson cluster, or I'll just run this on one of my old computers. Another reason I think it's a good idea to run Jetson or Raspberry Pi is, and let's say we use a Raspberry Pi for 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is kind of difficult to get right now. On eBay, you could get one for about $200, and then you will need a case that supports a SSD plugin. And a SSD 256 gigabytes probably gonna cost you about $50 to $60. So overall, you may run between $250 to $300 for a setup. So we can do some quick math here. So after the halving, the requirement will increase for a Cumulus node. I would imagine the VPS cost will go at least double to $15 a month. So let's say it will cost you $250 for a Raspberry Pi and the SSD. You divide that by $15. Okay, 16.7. We'll just call it 17. So what does this number mean? 17. It means if you rent a VPS, you'll be making a bunch of money each month. At the end of 17 months, you will just get this amount of rewards in USD minus whatever the cost for renting VPS. But let's say if you buy a Raspberry Pi, at the end of 17 months, you'll be getting a Raspberry Pi and whatever this per month reward is multiplied by 17. So the difference between renting VPS and running this thing on Raspberry Pi or Jetson is that you're putting all this money into a hardware, something you actually own. So let's say one day if you don't want to run Flux anymore, you can still use that piece of hardware to run some other projects, to support other blockchains, or simply do some edge computing projects or something like that. All right, guys, hopefully I've given enough information to you to figure out which type of node is the best for you and cleared up some questions on the rewards. I will be going in depth into some of these stuff in the future. If you have questions, leave those in the comment section below. Are you going to be running nodes? Which one you're going to be running after the halving? And what device are you going to be running it on? Again, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. This is Mototech. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.